Let me tell you the story of two men. These two men are very similar. They both work at the same job. And after they finish their shift, they drive home. One of the men listens to the news, and then sometimes he also changes that to his Spotify playlist. And the other man listens to podcasts. The first guy's driving home, but before he gets home, he makes a stop to McDonald's. And he just picks up a small thing there, like a McFlurry. And he goes home and he just has that. The second guy drives home without that stop, without the McFlurry. The rest of the day is exactly the same. Imagine that, 100% the same. It's only the difference is what they're listening to in the car and whether or not they picked up like a little 200-calorie ice cream on the way home. In 20 years, the guy on the left is morbidly obese. Just an extra 100, 200 calories a day over like 10 years is like 50 pounds of fat. And that's if it literally stays with just like, it's like it's in a vacuum. You only gain the 200. Naturally, you can imagine the fat ass who stops for ice cream every day is going to be more likely to also get other things as well. It's going to compound not just like linearly, but also like he's going to be way more likely to cheat on his diet even more. Not only that, he's actually working in the exact same job 20 years later because he's not learning. The other guy listens to a podcast for 30 minutes on his way back home. He's listening to Chris Williamson podcast, Deep Dive with Ali Abdal. He's listening to something intelligent. And with that, he got one promotion after, let's say, 4 years. Then one more, then one more. And he makes at least triple what this guy does. He still makes like 45K a year decades later. This guy makes like 120K. This guy's actually relatively in shape. This guy's morbidly obese, and we only change two variables, literally just what you listen to in the car for 30 minutes a day and whether or not you stop to pick up ice cream. And we're saying that this is all like in a vacuum. Because again, the person listening to the music is probably going to be much more likely to be a degenerate and sex obsessed. That's the state of music these days. He's also going to be listening to the news, which means that his cortisol's higher, which means his sleep's worse, his performance in work is worse, his relationships are worse. So it's a lot more of an effect than we think. But even if we're just being nice to this guy, literally just the objective facts is that he makes 3 times less and he's 3 times as fat as this one with those 2 small changes. That's the compound effect in action. You don't see much day to day. You can have the ice cream and it doesn't actually do much to your physique right now, but if you do that 2, 3, 4 times a week, if you go to McDonald's once a week compared to the guy who doesn't go at all, if you have that extra little bit of sugar every single day, 20% of your calories on junk food and 80% on unhealthy food, that's when over years it makes a much bigger difference. So it's your gift to your future self to be thinking about the compound effect and thinking that small choices will really change your future self's life a lot. Here's an actionable step for you. Decide one good small thing that you could do, very small. I'm talking the equivalent of like 50 calories. For example, you could go for a walk every single day for just 10 minutes. That's it. What's a good habit that's small that you could start to do every single day for the rest of your life? Maybe it's 3 minutes of meditation. Maybe it's 5 minutes of prayer. Maybe it's 5 minutes of deep breathing, or it's 5 minutes of reading. Maybe it's 5 minutes of walking outside. Maybe it's 5 minutes of just playing with your dog with no distractions at all. What's a very small thing for less than 5 minutes? And then also, what's a bad habit that you'll stop doing? A very small bad habit. Maybe it's putting sugar in your coffee or your tea. Maybe it's using like one of those bullshit artificial sweeteners, which are as bad as sugar, even worse because it's just got weird chemicals in. Maybe you just stop doing that. Maybe you stop putting in whole milk, which is full of estrogenic materials. They've put stuffed the cow full of disgusting stuff and it's been bottled in plastic and everything. Maybe you just stop putting milk in your coffee. These 2 changes, if you can make it easy enough to literally follow them every single day for the rest of your life, and of course knowing you're probably still going to miss like 1,000 days, you'll be significantly, very significantly different 20 years from now, more than you'd realize. You know why? Just if we do the math, that literally just, the splash of milk that you put into your coffee is like 30 calories, 50 calories, right? If we just do the math that if you had that every single day for 10 years, for 50, like 20 years, 30 years, there's the difference of like literally 50 pounds of pure fat. And never mind the estrogenic, testosterone killing effects of milk and everything. But also we know that one decision often leads to the next. And so if you stop, for example, putting in artificial sweeteners, like 2 grams of sugar in your coffee every single day, because of the impact of that, you'd be more likely to create another really good change and another one and another one. And you become so no difference. I want to give you some hope. Now, I'm a little bit older than a lot of the guys who watch me. On average, our audience is quite young. It's like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. I'm 26. I'm telling you right now, by the time you get to about 25, 26 years old, that's when you really start to first see the difference between you and the men your age. You know, when you're 18 years old, you don't see much. A lot of it's actually quite based on like genetics and early positive feedback loops. There's an absolute imbecile who's more popular than you and might even make more money than you when you're 18 or 20 or 21 years old because they got the positive feedback loop. You know, there's a guy who's kind of attractive, but he's kind of like brain dead and he doesn't even work hard and he's getting more girls than you when you're 16 years old or even when you're 21 years old because he's got nicer hair, he's got a jawline, he's like more attractive. Give it another like 5 years when the compound effect takes off. Once you get to around like you're closer to your late 20s, it starts to become apparent when you see that like everyone you went to high school with, or let's say 90% of the people that you go to high school with, have gained like 20 pounds, 30 pounds of pure fat. Because they've been drinking every single weekend for the last fucking 8 years. Even more because in these degenerate cultures in the UK, for example, people drink when they're like 15, 14 years old. So people my age have been drinking most weeks for about 12 years. Now, I'm still guilty of this because I drank heavily for a few years when I went to university and I was like a degenerate and everything. But for the past few years, it's been very minimal. For the last 7, 8 months, it's been absolutely zero. The compound effect is showing in my life and the people that I come across. And I think this is just the start. I wonder what it's going to be like 5 or 10, 20 years from now. I'm a patient guy. 20 years from now, what's it going to be when I'm the guy who I meditate 20 minutes every single morning. I don't miss it anymore. What's that one change going to lead to 20 years from now? This is what excites me of like the future of being on self-improvement, of watching stuff like this, of implementing these small things